Hi everyone, welcome back to Prescribed Vibes. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. What you're about to hear is an actual therapy session with Stefanny acting as my therapist. It starts abruptly at first because it was just a conversation between Stefanny and I, but as we talked, we kind of realized how valuable the discussion could be, so I hit record. We want to give you guys a real unfiltered look at what it's like to be in therapy, not just as professionals, but as people doing the work ourselves. Steph and I both go to our own individual counseling. We think it's really important to practice what we preach and continue to work and build on ourselves as well. This session is really raw, it's personal, and it's vulnerable. Our hope is that by exploring our own thoughts and feelings, you'll take something meaningful from it as well. Whether you're just curious about therapy, in it yourself, or looking for insight, we invite you guys to listen with an open heart and an open mind. I hope you get something from it. Today's vibes are prescribed as non-judgmental. Let's dive in.
Way to put yourself out there, girl.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot. Like I said, the only thing that I would be hesitant to talk about right now really is my stepdad, because that is something that we just realized too. I've always done all this work around my bio dad. Like, he's the only factor in my daddy issues. And granted, that's a big piece of it, but in turn, I felt so, the word that comes to mind is indebted. Like, I felt almost indebted to my stepdad because he stepped up and was my dad when he didn't have to be, and my real dad didn't do that. And
Right.
So how could I ever be upset with this man when he's here being my dad?
I see. Gotcha.
So I overlooked or downplayed a lot of things that were kind of problematic in my relationship with he's my dad, because I was just glad he was there.
Right.
And not only that, but again, like, meeting needs and kind of being indispensable. I mean, we all kind of walked on eggshells around him for a really long time. He was just kind of an angry dude for a bit. Like, it was easy to tick him off and he's yelling at you and whatever. But I also, like, we did all the things to placate him and make sure there was nothing that could upset him. But I took that a step further and, like, took on his interests to, again, feel like that's how I can be close to you. And that's how maybe you'll, like, gravitate more toward me over my sisters, is if I'm A, the good kid, and B, the one who does things you like to do. So, like, buying a camper and traveling and doing, like, having a big ass diesel truck and just, you know what I mean? Like, doing things that will
certain changes too.
Yeah, just trying to adhere to, like, what it is that he likes. And granted, I do have a bigger sense of self outside of that, but I've realized lately that I'm very much a fawn response type of person, where I snuggle up close and try to make sure that everyone's okay and happy, and you know what I mean? That makes me feel safe. But I also think that's kind of what we did in my house growing up, is there would be an issue and we would all pretend it didn't happen, but then we would, like, joke around with each other or give each other a hug or whatever, and, like, kind of get close to be like, everything's fine, we're over whatever that issue was.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it almost kind of taught me to do that. Like, oh, well, even if we were upset with each other or something's going wrong, if we just, like, joke around or snuggle up or, you know, whatever, then it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of interesting stuff coming up in therapy lately, for sure.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to my baby sister this morning about it. We have the same bio dad, and then she's got her mom, and she's had a stepdad since she was really, really little, just like me.
Uh-huh.
And she and I were talking about how she had mentioned that when our bio dad died, her mom really struggled. And she thinks that her mom struggling so much with that trickled down to her and our brother and caused some issues for them. And so I was talking to her, I was like, wow, I actually really never thought about maybe how your mom was affected by his death, because my mom really was not, from what I could tell. And I didn't feel like I had anyone to grieve that loss with, because my little sister was months old when our parents
Yeah.
got married. And she has just always had a very different disposition to things, where I've always been this big emotional, in-depth kind of person. She's very much like anyone and everyone could be dead to me at the drop of a hat kind of thing. So like Kyle was nothing to her. Our dad was her dad, and that's all that mattered to her. And so I didn't feel like I could grieve with her, or like she understood what I was going through. And my mom, same thing in a way. And again, I felt like I had to be so grateful that my dad was my dad that I couldn't feel for
Right.
Kyle. I couldn't feel that loss. I couldn't acknowledge it. And that both couldn't be true. That I love my dad and I'm so grateful that he's here, but that there is this hole in my life and in my heart with this other guy who hasn't been here.
Yep. When did your stepdad come into the picture for you? How old were you?
I was one. Like, he's always been,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
yeah.
And you had been around your biological dad up until age 4?
Not much, but
Not
yeah.
much.
So we were in Indiana until I was 3, and that's where my bio dad lived. And so here and there, when he had his stuff together and my mom was comfortable with it, we would have some time here and there, but it wasn't a lot. And
Uh-huh.
then when we moved to Arizona, obviously I don't think I maybe even saw him again after that. And I remember he called me on my 4th birthday, and being at my little Pocahontas birthday party at the house, and my grandma, I'm pretty sure, answered the phone and had me come talk to him. It was like, this one of those phones attached to the walls with the cord, and I'm in the kitchen on the
Uh-huh.
corded phone, and he's like, I'm sorry I haven't been calling. I'm going to start calling you every day. I love you. Happy birthday. Last time I ever heard from this man. And
Wow.
and
Okay.
so when my last relationship ended, and it was, I'm going to call you, and then he didn't call me, and then he's like, oh, my bad, I'll call you tomorrow, and then he didn't call me, and then I just didn't hear from him again, was so parallel to
Right.
what I experienced with Kyle, that it just like it shattered. I think I told you a little bit about it. Like, I felt something in my brain change to
Yeah.
realize that I have seriously been pursuing and trying to recreate this mission that I've been on
Yeah.
to try and have a better ending to this story that I can never go back and change. So yeah, that was a really interesting thing for me to piece together, was that like, wow, like I really have just been on this subconscious mission. Like, little me started something that she needed to finish and wasn't able to, because that was ripped away, which created this whole need for control as well. And so I've just been, without even realizing it. And it's so funny because obviously we're in this line of work, and I understand psychology, and I know that we do these things, and I've put together like, oh yeah, we go for what we know, we marry our unfinished business, blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
But I had never been able to so tangibly like see it.
Yeah,
The
right.
logic was there and the understanding was there, but the connection and the, like, for lack of a better term, earth shattering realization hadn't come yet. And so now that it has, there's just been such a huge shift. So this new thing that I'm pursuing now has really challenged me to get comfortable with someone not needing anything from me, and that being safe and okay, and obviously more desirable. Pursuing all of these relationships where if I can meet their needs, then they'll stay and they'll love me and it'll be great. has just not been working out for obvious reasons. But I didn't even realize that's what I was doing.
Is there a way to reframe that though when you say this person doesn't need anything from me? That sounds
Yeah,
very black and white,
you're
right?
right.
Because we all need each other, we're humans.
Mm-hmm.
In what ways can a man or a romantic
Mm-hmm.
partner need you?
Yeah, in ways that are better, absolutely. So I would prefer a man to need me for companionship and for like a safe place to be seen himself, right? Like confide in me, let me support you. Even like needing, see, I think the word need is something I get caught up on too because want feels better, desire feels better as opposed to a dependency, right?
Right,
Like me and this person should both know that if we didn't have each other, we'd be okay.
right.
We're not reliant on one another, but we want to fill in the gaps and we want to be there on the hard days and the good days and lean on the other when the other isn't doing so well and just be able to partner up. That's something that's been coming up a lot for me as far as talking about why do we even want a relationship, right? It's like I don't need somebody, but I do feel kind of alone in life. And I was telling my mom about this, and I felt almost guilty telling her this. And I clarified, I was like, I know that I have you and dad, and I know I have my sisters, and I know I have my friends. I have a great support system, but it is just not the same. My problems are not y'all's problems. Like, you can support me and be there for me, but at the end of the day, when I go to bed, like, this is my problem. And having a partner, it gives you some breathing room. Like, I'm not the only one in this, and I can lean on them, and they can support me in ways that I just don't have right now. Just
Right.
feels like a lot of
So, a couple
pressure.
questions. Is it okay to feel lonely and want an intimate partner?
Absolutely, I think so.
Okay. And when you think about, the differences between want and need, one of the things you said is, I want someone that's okay without me. Like they're self sufficient, they're independent. However, it sounds like you want to have that companionship
Mm-hmm.
without the dependency.
Mm-hmm.
Companionship, the support, the love. But ultimately, if you don't have that, you're going to be okay. That person's going to be okay.
Yeah, because and not to say that there aren't like seasons where maybe that isn't true, but that's okay because we've got each other, right? Like you're going through a tough you lost your job, or I'm grieving the loss of somebody and I'm just not up to par with what I'm doing or whatever. Like to need each other in those ways. I guess maybe it's more foundational. Like again, if we broke up, I wouldn't have to be taking care of you as far as financially, or like I know that you could go get an apartment if we're living together and carry on your life because it's a lot of pressure and a position I've put myself in frequently. But then it creates this resentment where I'm like, why aren't you doing the things? And like I have this expectation of them to grow, right? The potential. And I recently heard the potential that you see in someone else isn't real. It's only what you would do in their shoes.
Right.
If you were in their position, that's what you would do. And that's a potential that you see, but they would have to be you in order for that to happen, essentially. But I tend to gravitate toward that in a way. Like I want to connect with someone on a personal level, and so if I have a really good like friendship kind of foundation with somebody, we click, we get a lot similar senses of humor, similar interests, those types of things, and then you pair that friendship with them having some needs that I can meet, and that making me feel really secure and being able to keep this best friend around.
Mm-hmm.
That has been kind of my recipe in hindsight for a long time, and I can't do that anymore.
Okay, when you say you can't do that anymore, right? Why not? What does it make you feel like being in that role of I'm here to provide,
Mm-hmm.
be there for you? What are the parts of you that does not like that anymore? Just doesn't has grown out of it.
I think there's a few sides to it. I think one piece of it is that typically those people. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. Here's another thing that has recently come up in therapy as well. I have recognized that through social norms and pop culture and those types of things, somewhere along the way in my childhood, I picked up on women being a man's ball and chain. We are a problem, we're an inconvenience, we just make their lives harder. That has been something that I have tried to manage along the way too, is to not be someone's ball and chain, to not be an inconvenience or something that they have to like go complain to their friends about, which has really led me to minimize my own needs as much as possible. Because again, if I meet all of their needs and I don't make any waves or create any issues for them, then they'll, why would they leave?
Right.
And then I get in this place where I'm always like, gosh, it just seems like if I were more problematic, these men would stick around. Like if I were bitchier, if I were, it's like being this person who doesn't create any issues and meets all of their needs. Like I'm this perfect unicorn human. And yet they still leave. Like, yeah, dude, because it's really not authentic. And I haven't realized I haven't honored my own needs in any of these relationships a lot of times. Maybe certain needs are met and that's good, and obviously there has to be something to keep me in any of these relationships for a given amount of time, but it's almost like a challenge that I have accepted. Like my challenge is to conquer this mess of a man.
Well, one of the things that I was thinking about when you were saying, I just want to not be an inconvenience, I don't want to nag and bitchy, right? And you don't probably speak up about the things you need because you just, in their eyes, want to be perfect. Like, she's so independent.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like when you said I'm not being authentic, it's almost like you're abandoning your needs, your relationship, yourself, right? I just had this like visual of you just kind of like evaporating.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're in the behind the scenes. And how can a partner see you for who you really are if you're not
Right. And
there?
the way that I have kind of mitigated that is by being, right, kind of like I was saying I did with my dad. Like, I take on all of the interests of whoever I'm with. And I just am generally like, I have a pretty big personality and identity for myself that I do like. I am a huge fan of the person I am. I admire her. I think she's pretty cool. And so that's who they see, and I enjoy that they see me as that person, right? Someone who is very laid back and fun and interesting and hardworking and independent and smart and funny. Like that is how I feel seen on the surface.
Okay.
There was a lot growing up of stop crying, you're fine, get over it kind of thing. So that made me, as always being such an emotional person and no one else in my household being that way, I've always felt almost kind of bullied about it. Love you, mom, love you, dad, love you, sisters. I felt a little bit bullied about it for a while, so I kind of had to learn how to adapt to that too, and either try to push things down or it has been something that my family members have pointed out to me in adulthood a little bit, is that I have a tendency to be kind of private or not share some things with them, which I've gotten better about in the last few years, but there was a period of time because it just like it didn't feel like it would be well received or like I would get what I needed from that. So I've found that in my community as far as the friends and the support system that I've created for myself. So I kind of do that in a relationship too, where I'm the cool girl. You don't have to worry about me.
And why is that important to you now to show who you really are, what your needs are, and allow yourself to be vulnerable?
I mean, I think partly like a relationship isn't fulfilling or sustainable if you're not. I've kind of been in the different situations where it's like my emotional needs weren't met and I still got my heart broken even though I was all the things I was supposed to be. Or my emotional needs were met, but I didn't have a partnership with this person and it became burdensome and kind of bleak in the sense that I'm responsible for like all of the bills and I have to do the grocery shopping and the cooking and the cleaning and all of my emotional needs are met, but then I'm also all you have. And that's kind of a pressure in of itself where like you don't have friends or hobbies, things you go do outside of me. So I'm carrying all the weight of the household and all of the weight of bearing like your emotions and your needs, and you don't have anything else outside of me. That was too much, and there wasn't any indication that that would change, right? That was always the conversation of like, okay, well, career-wise, what you got going on? Are we going to go to therapy and make some friends and go do some things? And it just really wasn't going anywhere. So I've lost relationship on that front too. So it seems like no matter which box I try to put myself in or which way I try to make it work, it's obviously not working up to this point. And I'm going through all of these relationships without my needs being met.
Right.
And so I'm kind of at a point where it's like, well, I recognize the fear in trying to create a relationship with someone who does meet my needs and who doesn't need me. Because kind of to circle back with this whole like we're a burden and what have you, I think that's a lot of what has driven my sense of independence, where I don't care for a man to like do for me very much, or like I don't want you to pay my bills. That feels scary to me,
Right.
because then
Financially,
you
you
have
have that
something to
covered.
hold over my head, or take anything from them gives me anxiety, but then I want to give to them, almost as if I'm reversing the roles there, where it's like I'm not the type of person who would ever hold it over their head, but at least I feel good about myself that I didn't do a bunch of taking.
I
And so
see.
if this
Right.
doesn't work out, you can't turn around and be like, "But I did all of this for you and I da 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 da," and then I feel bad like I owe you something, right? And then I feel trapped in that relationship too.
Mm-hmm.
It's very complex the more we unravel things.
So, you know, I can definitely relate to that. And I want to ask you this question about, I want you to take some time to think about it. Why are you worthy of receiving and taking?
That part is definitely fear based, because I know that I am. Like, I know what I bring to the table. I know that I'm a worthy person. I know I'm thoughtful. I know I'm caring. I know that I am kind and, well intended. Like, I know I am deserving of that. It's just scary to me. Um,
Okay, so tell me more about what are the fears behind accepting what you're given, whether it's, support, love, attention, even if it's something financial.
mhm.
What's that fear about?
Well, partly in fear that it'll be held against me, right? if
Okay.
if for some reason, because I've struggled with boundaries, and if for some reason I decided that this relationship isn't for me at some point, I almost feel like I'm not allowed to say that if I'm essentially indebted to them for something, right?
Okay.
So
So you believe you might feel indebted to them because they've given you
mhm. Like again, if they
whatever
were to
it is.
come back and say, "I did this for you, I did that, I bought you this, I blah blah blah," and then I feel guilty and don't maintain my boundary, and on a logical level, I know all of these things, but to now recognize it in myself, it's like the wool has been pulled off my eyes, and I'm recognizing it now, and so to be able to say like, that is their choice. If they choose
Right.
to invest in those ways, we're both taking a risk going into a relationship. Any relationship is a risk that it won't work out, and whatever we invest in it is it's relationships are not great investments in a lot of ways. And the fact that we can lose out, there's high risk in that way. But that's something that, as much as I have worked and learned to come to terms with, and living in this space of no regrets, this is how I felt in the moment, this is what made sense to me. I'm cool with that. That is also where they need to be with it. And if they're not, at the end of the day, and I realize or they realize or whatever that this isn't for us, they have to be able to come to terms with that too. But I need to be able to not take on that responsibility as if, again, that almost becomes transactional, where it's like, oh well, I'm bought and paid for essentially, so
Exactly. And it makes me see how, when you said, well, then I'll feel guilty because they gave, and they didn't get what they wanted and they can hold it against me. And when you say I feel guilty, is that similar to say I did something wrong?
I think it's closer to I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough.
Yeah, because I think that's been a primary core belief for me is I'm not good enough. I think again, just like starting with a dad who didn't want to be there, like, right? That kind of leads to that belief that little. And so, yeah, I think it's that, I'm not good. I've let this person down. I took advantage of them. Like all these things that I'm not, but I don't want to be perceived that way for sure. I don't want anyone
Right.
to ever think that I take them for granted or I don't appreciate the things that they have done.
Do you trust yourself to convey that to your partner or in any relationship that you're not taking them for granted, that you are acknowledging, appreciating, recognizing their
Mm,
effort? You trust yourself to show up in a relationship.
absolutely.
Okay.
Overly so sometimes. But that's why it's kind of refreshing again in this new space to be okay with something that is more reciprocal because I always want the reciprocation, but I
Right.
always tolerate a lack thereof instead of being like, "Oh, I'm not getting what I need here. Moving on from this, like this isn't going to work for me." Instead I'm like, oh well, I guess like maybe if I do more or I try harder, then they'll start to show up for me and do the things that I'm apparently not deserving of yet.
Right. Like, I need to show you that I'm worthy.
Yes, and again back to that mission statement with Kyle is I'm going to do all the work and make sure that like even to the sense of going into because my bio dad had a lot of mental health struggles, addiction. That's why he wasn't around. He had
Uh-huh.
bipolar. And so probably even what drove me into this field was this is what would help me to be able to fix him, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like I took it seriously. And I still think this is exactly where I'm supposed to be for so many reasons, but
Well,
it's
I
just
also noticed that you said when there is an imbalance or it's not reciprocated or your needs aren't met, instead of saying anything or just like, well, this isn't going to work for me, right? That's what you said.
mm,
What would it sound like for you to let your partner know that your needs are not being met?
yeah. I got a lot of practice in with that in my last relationship. Because I really did. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't expecting them to read my mind, right? I wanted to make
Right.
sure that I was being very clear about, okay, well, this thing is upsetting me. I'm not getting what I need. Let me make sure that I'm giving them the opportunity to show up and do that for me. And so clear communication and in a way that's, not accusatory. Like, I'm not assuming that they're doing this thing on purpose, but just to say, hey, when you did or didn't do this thing, made me feel that way, or I would really appreciate this in the future, or this is something that's actually really important to me. Can you keep that in mind? And so I've gotten much better and more comfortable with doing that. It's just a matter of finding a partner who is interested in hearing that and doing something about it.
Right. Listening and then doing it.
Yeah,
Okay.
who hears it and wants to make the change.
Are
It,
there ways to recognize, though, in a partner that they are meeting your needs more in the beginning versus
mm,
later on?
I
Are there
mean,
ways to recognize that emotional attunement?
right. That is something I struggle with. That's hard because I think now I would be able to identify a little bit differently. Like with the current situation, it's very apparent, and I think effort has a lot to do with it. And so the effort being there, but also the level of communication, even out the gate, being a little more indicative. But in my last relationship, that is how it was at first, right?
Right.
It was a lot of in depth conversations and connecting and seeing things the same way and the effort and energy being there, but it was apparent that it wasn't going to last. But I had already, like, maybe I was in a limerence place at that point where, I had seen what it could be and I was kind of holding on to that despite seeing that that's not how it's going to be. One of my friends just sent me this TikTok or reel or whatever of someone talking about how these inconsistent relationships or imbalanced relationships being similar to like gambling in the sense that, or like Skinner's pigeon experiment where it's like, you know, the pigeon pulls the lever, it gets food, it gets food, it gets food, and it's getting food continuously, consistently over here, but this one over here might get it consistently at first, and then every 3 pulls it might get some food, or every 5 pulls it might get some food, but that the gamble of it and the, well, maybe it'll be this time, well, maybe it'll be, it's almost like a slot machine, like you keep pulling, like what if the next pull is the one I win the lottery on. And that
Yep.
those relationships are similar to that in the sense of the inconsistent reward system, and so it almost becomes like a fun anxiety game that you play with yourself where you're like, will it be this time? Will he meet my needs this time? Will he say what I need to hear this time? Will it be okay this time? And you just keep pulling the dang lever, hoping for the best. And I don't want to
Yep,
play
you're
that
on the
game.
edge of your seat waiting to see, am I going to
Yeah.
get what I want and need right now?
And it's like, okay, I'm done riding roller coasters. I just want to be on a nice little boat going down a stream at a steady pace.
Yeah. I think, you know, when you're saying that analogy, it reminds me of being very clear about identifying specifically what do I need from a partner. Like if I could create, obviously no one's perfect, but what are my top 3 needs
Mm-hmm.
in order to feel valued, supported, whatever those values are for you?
Yeah.
And what does that look like to be on the receiving end, right? Because you know how to give those things.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like and feel like to receive that? How do I work on being observant and being able to look out for those things?
And I realized that the barrier to that for a long time has been that I want the upper hand. I want the upper hand. I want that sense of security that if I lose you, it's not a loss, actually. Like, I'm not really losing anything. But yet I'm still getting my heart broken. And like,
Okay, so you want the upper hand because you believe if you can control
mm-hmm.
what you can control, which is how much you're giving,
Mm-hmm.
how much you're morphing yourself into your partner,
Yeah.
you believe that's going to provide you with security, right?
Yeah.
When now we're moving more towards an opposite of
Yeah.
how can I put myself in a position to be on the receiving end, also give, but also receive.
Yeah. Like any kind of growth, right? It's getting outside your comfort zone. And
Definitely.
and there's a period of time where you're like, what do I do? This is
Yeah.
uncomfortable. I can't handle this. I can't tolerate it. But something I talk about with my clients a lot is once you see something, once your consciousness, you bring something from the subconscious to the conscious, and you have now seen it for real. You stand in this in between space where you can't go back to where you were because now you've seen it and it's no longer your comfort zone, almost is no longer a comfort zone just because your eyes are open to it now.
Right.
But you also haven't quite moved into the new space yet. And that new
Mm-hmm.
space is uncomfortable and unknown and scary in its own ways. And you sit in this in between space where you kind of teeter back and forth, like, I want to lean this way, lean that way, until you figure it out and create this new normal, this new comfort zone for yourself. So the transition period is just really, it's full of learning and growth in of itself, but it's a tough space to be in.
Yeah, but also you are intentionally going out there to create these experiences for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you know, through people that you meet, date. You are intentionally creating these experiences where it is going to challenge your nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to take practice because you're putting yourself out there to now receive, and it's going to feel a little, what the heck? Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to fight back and say, no, I don't need this. I'm good. Let me go
Mm-hmm.
back to giving you.
Yeah, and it is. It's hard to not, I mean, even just trying to not make it a tit for tat in that way. Like, I don't do tit for tat in a argumentative conflict sense, but I do tend to do tit for tat to the point where, and this is something I have forced myself recently to get out of the habit of, but to the point where if a man opens the car door for me, I get in, I will reach across and unlock or open their door from the inside so that it is
Okay.
reciprocal. Like, you opened my door, but guess what, bitch? I also opened yours. So, what now?
What would it mean? What would happen if you didn't do that? Then what would
Literally
that be like for you?
nothing. What would it be like for
Oh,
me?
this entitled brat.
No, like I said, so in the past year or two, I have definitely like been challenging myself, and every once in a while, like, if somebody is they don't have automatic locks, I'll like reach across and unlock it so that they don't have to fiddle with the key. I'm already in there. But I've stopped opening the door from the inside and doing that for them again as like an act of service to myself in a way, to be like, hey dude, it's okay. You reciprocate in other ways. Let
Right.
them do this for you, and you do this other thing for them, and it's not mirrored, and it's okay.
Right. It's not mirrored. Reciprocity can look different. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be mirrored. That's a great point.
Yeah. But I do. I
And
mean,
you're going to be giving in other ways than your partner is.
yeah. But yeah, it's always to the point of like I can't show up somewhere empty-handed, or like in my last relationship it was always like, oh, like, let me make sure that you have food, and like I'm taking care of your needs. There's nothing that you know you could want that you don't have, kind of thing.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, that doesn't guarantee anything, and then you just neglected yourself for the majority of that relationship. So like, I think I've just kind of gotten to that point where again I'm investing differently for better outcomes in a way. Like,
Well, and you are so aware. It sounds like you've been working on this on small things, but you
mm-hmm,
are so much more aware now.
mm-hmm, very
And,
much.
earlier we talked about the mission statement. What would be not a motto, maybe a mission statement, some like one liner that you can repeat to yourself
Hmm.
and find supporting evidence now, like a new belief
Yeah.
system.
What I'm going to is like almost like what you said, as far as reciprocity not being mirrored, or like almost like what goes around comes around, or um, something that almost just more so gives me permission to just be me and not be having to tend to somebody, like, or love doesn't have to be earned, or something along those lines.
So giving from a place of not because you're trying to create that sense of security and control, but you're wanting to give because you just are in a giving, generous space,
Mm-hmm.
coming from love and genuine care for someone.
Right. More, yeah. Yeah, but I think that challenge comes back into my lap as far as being able to recognize from moment to moment, act to act, what my motive is. And I think I have to be really honest with myself about that, which can kind of be tough.
And that's okay that you
Mhm.
have to take a pause and ask yourself,
Yeah.
where is this giving coming from?
I even told my therapist last week, I was like, as we were talking about how me meeting people's needs and not creating issues has been what I have created as a sense of safety for myself, then I was like, oh my gosh, now I feel like I'm going to have a whole identity crisis, because am I really just this super kind, giving, caring person, or is that what I became in order to feel safe and like so now I'm like having this existential crisis about who am I really,
Right.
and
Yeah.
like like trying to get so meta about questioning myself about like, am I picking up their favorite drink on the way to see them because I just want to make their day, or because I want to feel like I have something to offer. And it's like, how do I differentiate between those things, because I feel like everything is so convoluted at this point that I don't even know.
Really
Like,
bad.
it is who I am. So maybe it's more so just the place that I'm coming from with it, and I make that decision in the moment to say, um,
I'll be okay, right? If
I'll be okay, and that I don't have to do this, and maybe giving myself, because I really do go out of my way like a few months ago, when I was in in my previous relationship, he had he has a crazy work schedule, and so sometimes he'd be working overnights and sleep during the day, and so we had to get creative about spending time together. He would come over here after work and sleep during the day, and we would hang out a little bit before he went to work or whatever, or in the morning when he got home. And so I had some sessions, he was sleeping. I had a break between sessions, he's still sleeping. And I think I had like an hour. And I ran out and I went and got coffee and I went and got a Dr. Pepper for him to take to work. But not only did I get a big Dr. Pepper, I also got a thing of ice because I'm thoughtful and I don't want it to melt in your cup, and you'll have the ice, and so it'll be cold, but it's not going to be watered down. So you've got 2 cups there. And I just like went on this whole spree in this little hour of a break that I had to try to like take care of this man's needs and make sure he's okay. And like he would have been fine without all
Right.
that stuff. Like I did not have to be that extra about it.
But would you have been fine? How would
Right.
you have felt not doing those things?
Right. I would have I
Because that was also for you.
100%. 100% it was for
Right.
me. Like it was that I want to show just how well I can take care of you and how like valuable I am. Like look how above and beyond I'm willing to go, and it's such a fucking joke. Like
And now you're like, you know what? I don't have to do those things. I'm valuable.
yeah, like I
I'll do it when I want to, but not because I feel like it's going to add this sense of security to keep you.
right. And obviously like consciously that's not what was happening. Like I was just so excited to go on this little like errand spree to surprise him when
Hmm.
he woke up. But if I really think about it, it's like, yeah, dude, like I just really wanted to feel like I wanted to make him want to come back over and want to
Right.
spend time with me. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where that was coming from, where I could have done something otherwise or just relaxed during that time, and it doesn't have to be so extra, and it's being more selective. And also again, like especially if that person isn't pouring into your cup, for you to just be continuously pouring into theirs anyway. It's not setting the expectation that things need to be reciprocal, right?
Hmm.
Um, we met up one day to go. We hadn't spent any time together. He was going to go on this little 2-hour road trip to go pick up a car part, and it was like, okay, well, I can come with you. We can hang out and just do that. Is that how I wanted to spend our time together? Not really, but I just wanted to spend time together. And we show up, and he shows up with a coffee, and he didn't bring me a coffee. He didn't ask if I wanted a coffee. And I was just like, oh, okay, we're going on this road.
Rude.
100% rude.
Like,
And so
why
I
would you
even,
have that need to keep you?
yeah, and so, exactly. Which I also, I mean, if we want to get into that, I'm pretty sure he was trying to do everything in his power to prove to himself that he didn't deserve me, and so doing shit like that. But
Right. I don't need you. Exactly. He's the on the opposite side.
100%. And so
Don't you
even
bitch, I don't need you.
right. And so I get in and I'm like, oh, I didn't even have time to grab a coffee this morning, whatever. And we go on this whole 2-hour road trip, and he's not like, oh, do you want to grab something? Like, not only did he not bring me a coffee, but I mentioned I need one and doesn't offer to stop and get one. I'm just like, cool. So my needs are
Yeah.
just like non existent here.
And that probably added to that narrative, right? That belief system even more. He's showing you, oh, yeah, they don't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It was just a lot. This past year has been a lot of growth and deeper understanding of myself. Because even when you talk about checking off those check boxes and knowing what you're looking for in a relationship, I really have thought that I've been doing that.
Right. Yeah.
It's just I didn't know myself on a deep enough level yet to understand that I was misguided in those things.
Hmm.
Which, to kind of circle it up, is how important it is to know yourself very deeply to be able to navigate these things with intention and with success.
And sometimes you just may know things intellectually. You
Mm-hmm.
know, right? You
100%.
know it, but that doesn't mean you truly believe it.
And to say, like,
To your core.
again, like, yeah, you know it on a logical level, but you haven't met yourself there yet. And I
Exactly.
think that's the difference is it is a almost visceral experience when you
And
do.
that's where the work comes in.
And that's where the work comes in, but it's almost like an onion or a parfait for our Shrek lovers is you peel back a layer and you're like, oh, I got it. And then there's another one. Or like a nesting doll where you're like, geez, there's another one in here. Like,
Yeah. I keep
how
going.
is there more to this thing? I thought I had it figured out, but it really just goes on. Okay, I know it ends a little abruptly as well, but that's all we have to share. Hopefully, you guys got something from it. Uh, Thanks again for supporting us, tuning in, listening. Please remember rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, and we will see you guys next time. Stephanie's going to be in the hot seat. I get a little break.